Welcome to another edition of Great Health, Abundant Happiness, and Outrageous Love.
Cheers. I am so excited to be saying I'm kissing Jeffrey again. Because for those of you that follow us, he's had some immunotherapy on his lips and they have not been in great shape, and they are healing beautifully, and he can kiss again. It doesn't hurt.
I'm
It's
back.
so nice.
I can drink coffee without drinking out of a straw. It's nice.
Right. So kissing. So I want to get to that because it's really
Well,
important.
yeah, we got to tee up here. So
Right.
one of our viewers asked us to do a video, and Karen and I wanted to share some thoughts here. And I asked her just before. She said, "I'm not going to tell you. We'll wait till we get on the video." But what was the question he asked?
So the question that he asked was, how do you stay on the straight and narrow with the same person, right? How do you keep yourself from straying? And this particular person is with somebody that he explained his relationship has gone to the next level. So he wants to only be with this person. And what he was asking, and he really wanted Jeffrey's opinion, which he's going to definitely get, but you're going to get mine as well for free, no charge. He just wanted to know, with experience. I mean, we've got a lot of years on him, and a lot of years of marriage, 30 years of marriage. So, a lot of people say, what's the secret? How do you make it last? How do you keep it spicy? Because you do not want an ordinary love. You want an extraordinary love, right? You want an outrageous love. You want a love story that starts when you're at the peak of that relationship. And everybody always says, oh, that's during the honeymoon phase and everything's great. Guess what? That can be the start, and things can grow from there, right?
Yeah.
So I told Jeffrey I didn't want to give him my secrets, which I think he knows anyway. But
I hope so. At this point, we've been together 30 years, so I think we've got each other figured out for the most part. But anyway, so go ahead. What's your tip?
So my tip is,
One tip might be not running the washing machine when we're doing videos, but that's all right.
yeah, that would have been one.
But anyway.
But anyway, mine is very different than that. So my tip is sex. So don't withhold sex, and that goes for both people. For women, if the man withholds sex, and I'm pretty sure Jeffrey never did, ever, but I know a lot of friends that stopped having sex, and it made them feel not sexy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is you might be out to dinner with a bunch of girlfriends or, wherever, and somebody looks at you and makes you feel sexy, and you start to long for that feeling. And if you aren't getting it in your marriage, chances are eventually you're going to get it somewhere else. So, and that...
Even just attention.
Attention,
Yeah,
exactly.
period, right?
And we can rattle off a numerous amount of great friends that we never thought would get divorced, that got divorced. And sex can be at the root of that. And it's not that you have to have sex 3 times a day like when you first started dating, but you have to have sex. It's very important, and it's something that you really share with just this other person when you're taking your relationship to the next level. So women, this is really, really important, because I think that women do tend to do this much more than men, although I do want to say it goes both ways. Ooh, there's a helicopter right there.
Yeah, that's the flight for life. That's not a good idea.
That's not a good thing to see. It is literally eye level with our
Well, it's coming in for a landing. We have 1 week of skiing left here at Copper Mountain.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll be fine.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do actually come in and practice on the pad as well. So women, don't hold out on your man. If you're angry with him, don't hold out sex. Okay, be angry, but don't hold out sex, because what happens is it becomes this,
How do you stay angry and not hold out on sex? This is interesting. I really want to hear this one.
I thought you would. That's why I didn't want to tell you. So Jeffrey and I grew up very differently, and my way of dealing with anger was to, sort of hold a grudge and keep it going. And Jeffrey was always one to say, let's not lose a minute, right? So I'm super proud to say, and it's taken me a long time, so this wasn't the way I was along our entire marriage, but I learned that there are other ways to deal with my anger. When you are growing up in a house, whatever way your family is dealing with things, that's what you know, right?
Right.
So that was all that I knew.
That's how we learn everything in
Right.
life.
So he asked me for two things. So
Well, this is the one, and then I'm going to say one, and then I'll let you
right.
go. Right.
So very, very important, women, don't hold out sex on your man, because guess what? If you stop having sex with your man, somebody else will start having sex with your man. And I know it sounds terrible, but just like women, they don't want to feel unsexual. They don't want to feel
Right.
unloved. And for men, sex is definitely a way that they show and receive love. So sex would be my number one tip. And again, it doesn't have to be 3 times a day like in the beginning. And whatever your but try to meet in the middle, because sometimes couples have very different
Right.
sexual agendas, and
Right.
sometimes
Right.
one might want it constantly and one might not. And as I pass this tip over to Jeffrey, try to never say no to sex. If you really just don't want it at that time, say yes, of course, in a little bit, or just not now, and work yourself to that.
Yeah, I wish I had this recording for all those years when maybe you were angry and you were dragging out the anger a bit, but you have actually learned a lot. Hopefully I've learned a lot. I think we all evolve, hopefully, as we get older, right?
I think so, but I will tell you one thing. Jeffrey traveled a lot while we were younger, and I always had sex with him the night before he left, or the morning.
I'm not so sure about that, so I'm going to go into my tip.
Always. And 99% of the time, I stuck a little something in his suitcase to remember that by.
Okay. All right. So.
You don't think so?
No. What I was going. No, I remember that. Some things.
I gave that tip to somebody else, and when they were trying to do it, their husband thought they were cheating on them, but it was for their husband. It was really kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so mine is, things aren't always perfect, and I did go on the road a lot, and sometimes we'd go and we'd get together, and Karen and I have been together 30 years. In the beginning, when we were younger, we might have words. And, we might have had an argument or something. I got to get right back on a plane and fly back out. So there were a lot of times that I remember, flying out, and maybe I was a little bit angry about something that happened. But, I always used to use a trick. Well, there's two things. We've talked about this before. We've done a whole video on it, the Love Book, where we force ourselves. I say force ourselves because 99% of the time it flows. Every morning I would leave Karen a love note, and she would write one back when she gets up in the morning. What that trick does is it gets you to pick something out that you love about the person. It might have been just thank you for the meal that you made last night, or you looked really pretty yesterday, or whatever it is. It doesn't always have to be a poem. But that goes along with my point. Don't forget why you got together in the first place. So I don't know where I learned this. Someone told me this at one point in time. Like, if you have an issue or something like that, think about what would it be like to not have that person in your life. Whether it's a significant other, it's a best friend, it's someone in business, and you just think, what happens if that person wasn't there the next day? They just left the planet and they're gone. What would happen? When you get up in the morning, would you miss that person when you're going to get coffee, or when you're at breakfast, or you go to text that person, you see something beautiful outside and you want to tell your soulmate about it, or that other person? Would you miss that person? And I think that was always a very good trick for me to think about, what would it be like if it was over? Then you think, no, it's not that stage. It doesn't need to be over. I'm going to get this fixed. Maybe I said something to offend her. Maybe I was too angry or too rushed, or whatever it was. It makes you second guess that, and to go back, and maybe it's an apology. Maybe it's doing something to make up. But I think that's one trick to keep things fresh. Never forget why you got together in the first place. The Love Book is a great way to think about that every day, because you write that down. But if you have issues in your way, think about what it would be like to not have something or someone in your life, because that's usually a pretty good wake-up call. By the way, and the other thing could happen too, I guess you might say, hey, life would be great to be without that person. I mean, then that might tell you something.
Right.
But if it's someone that you love and someone that you want to be with, it's a good way to strengthen things, because if you let things fray and stray apart, and you let it go a little bit by bit by bit, and then all of a sudden you're miles apart. It's just not a good thing if you want to stay together. So
Right.
that would be my tip.
I love that one. And, you know, we've had some situations where you were run over by a car, and I did have to think about that, not because I wanted to, because I was ever upset with you, but, you know, things happen, and you could be at jeopardy of losing the person that you love. The person that, when you found them, you just knew that they were the one. They make you want to be the best version of yourself, right? I mean, most of us have had a relationship prior to the person that is the one, right? And you think that's the one, of course, or you wouldn't have gotten into a deep relationship with that person. But that's a great growth relationship. That's where you realize exactly what it is that you want. And then the deal breakers, those things that, you know what, I am not willing to live my entire life without these things, whatever they might be.
Right.
And,
so you have another tip to throw out there.
So I
figure we should each do 2 at least.
Yeah.
And if you have 3 or 4,
well,
great.
you know what, let's do 2, and we'll
Okay.
do get some comments and hear what
Right.
some other people say, and then do a few more. So go ahead, I'm gonna let you go first this time.
I just went.
Yeah, and I went
Oh, I
first.
kind of chewed up 2 of mine at the same time.
Yeah,
So
you kind of did.
I have a kind of summary, but anyway.
Oh, all right.
That's all right.
See, so we didn't plan this, and that's okay. We can do the give and take. So let me think what probably, you know, there's a couple that I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me on. Something that Jeffrey and I have never done were girls' nights out and guys' nights out. You want to take it one step further, girls' vacations and guys' vacations. Now listen, I have some good friends that are happily married and travel a lot with you know, their girlfriends, and the guys travel a lot with their guys. I can tell you I have a lot of friends who have done this as well, and their marriages did not survive that. For Jeffrey and I, you know, when we were younger and we were raising kids, it was time, and it still is. Time is our most valuable asset, right? I'm so happy we have all this great time together, because we do everything together now. We work together and we play together, and you know, we're together all of the time.
Right. I was just going to say, when we were younger, when we were growing up, I mean, I had jobs where I had to get on planes. A lot of times every week I had to be on a plane. Sometimes I was on 2 different planes a week, kind of a thing. So I was away a lot, more than I'd like to even admit. So I think, to clarify, you're right, we never did that. I never really had the desire. By the way, by the time I was home, I wanted to spend time with Karen. It's not like you guys didn't say, hey, Jeffrey, we're going to go do this. We're all taking off for here. You know, I just didn't do that stuff. But at the end of the day, we did plenty, Karen and I, with other couples.
Always.
But you know, when I was home, I wanted to be with you at the end of the day, and I think vice versa. So we had plenty of time away. It wasn't like today. Today we're in this small condo on the side of a ski slope, and we travel everywhere in a Jeep, and we're together pretty much 24/7 for the most part.
Yeah.
Now we have businesses and things, so you know, I go in my room in there, and you're out here working, so we have time away, but we are together most of the time.
We are.
But you're right, that is one thing that we didn't really do much of.
Right. And I think it can be dangerous. What happens is that, you know, let's say I went on a girls' weekend, and all of a sudden there's pictures posted of me and my girlfriends and some guys in the background. Well, that just doesn't feel good. Put yourself in the other shoe, right? It doesn't feel good. And what happens again is, if you're not getting what you need at home, and if you're not giving what you need at home, you're going out with your girlfriends or your guy friends, and you may cross the line of even flirting, because you're needing to fulfill that part of your sexual being that is not being fulfilled.
Well, maybe you don't cross the line. Maybe you come up to it, and your significant other knows about it. So what happens is there's like a tit for tat.
Yes.
Someone says, oh, well, you did that with your girl. Well, I'm going to do this with my guys. Oh, and then it goes back and forth. And then before you know it, you're on a trip somewhere where somebody is giving you a lot of attention. and maybe you have, never an excuse, but maybe you had too much to drink, and you're hanging out too long, or you're in a hotel or whatever the heck's going on, right? It's like it goes down that path. Well, she did this, so he did. Well, I did this, and that's just not a good path to be on. Right. So it's just don't even go there.
So don't go there. And if you have the means and the time to take a vacation, take it together. There are studies that are proven that people who have trips planned, even before they've taken it, but that it's planned, they have a greater level of happiness and happiness together. And then when you're on that trip, make sure that you take a few good pictures of the two of you and put them up somewhere, because again, there are proven statistics that show looking at pictures of times when you had fun together, creates a stronger bond of happiness.
Right, that's key.
So those are my 2 tips.
Great.
I have a lot more though.
Yeah, I think we'll do like part 2 of this, because I think this is a good one. So thank you for asking the question out there. And mine is kind of a summation of all this. It's your commitment and sticking to a commitment. I told Karen in the beginning that no matter what, even if she dumped me, I was going to be there at her deathbed, right? And I said it since the beginning.
Yes.
Okay. And so I never really worried about that, but I told her that's my commitment. And to me, that commitment means something. And if you just stick to a commitment, sometimes that's all it takes. And you hold that commitment. And when I think about us growing old together, and I just started taking up art. I've been wanting to do this island life. Karen and I are going to live on an island somewhere. We're both artists. We're both writing. I have this whole plan, and it's part of my commitment to her and to us.
Right.
And I'm holding through to it. So I think it's important to have a commitment, and most importantly, have a vision. So yes, I'm committed to Karen. That's pretty much easy. Everybody says that at the altar, right? When you get married, you commit yourself to death, till death do us part. Unfortunately, about 50% of people don't follow through on that. But I'm talking about that commitment, but then I'm layering a lot on, if you get what I'm saying. There's a whole vision of our life together as we're growing old. There's places we live. I can smell the salt air. I can see the palm trees. We talk about the seagrass. We know what we're doing. We're artists. We're doing all of this stuff, but there's a vision. I can taste it. I can feel it. And that's part of my core and what I'm working towards. And I think that's important too with anything in life. I mean, you've got to have a commitment and have goals and be excited about it.
150%. I'm going to say 200%, because commitment is the key to all of this. If you're with somebody and they are even, remotely skeptical about it, then you need to work through that, because getting married isn't going to take care of that kind of skepticism. We were committed from day one, and I always laugh. My dad sat down at the bar with Jeffrey while the girls and I and my mom were still getting ready, and we had an evening wedding, and my dad would tell the story over and over, but he said to Jeffrey, there was one way out of this wedding, so you better decide right now if you're in or you're out, because the only way out is in a box. And
I thought that was cute, and that was like, that was before the wedding. The bar wasn't open, so here we're sitting there having a drink. But I didn't hesitate. I said, yeah, I'm in. Don't you think I thought about this, right? It's the kind of thing, it was funny. Right. But yeah, and we have a great relationship, and I think that's part of it too. Just all the family.
Right. So that day should be something you are so excited about, not something that you're like, oh my gosh, am I making a mistake, or the same person for the rest of my life, whatever. You should be running to get married and so excited about your lives together.
And hopefully everybody has that. I think most people have that in the beginning. This is about like, what does it look like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20, 30 years down the road. We're already looking at 40 and 50 and planning out. So I'm excited to do the rest of this with you.
I can't wait to do this video in 20 more years and see what the sex status is then.
Well, YouTube, we might be just telepathically communicating. We won't have to do this video. I get this camera on a tripod, and I've got to go through and get it jammed into YouTube. Maybe we'll just be transmitting it to each other by then, 20 years from now.
Who knows?
That'd
It
be
could
nice.
be super, super cool.
All
Wishing you great health, abundant happiness, and outrageous love from the nest at Copper Mountain.
Thanks, guys.